All right, like Griffin said, my name is Jared, and it's a privilege to be here with you guys tonight. I know most of you guys in here, but if I haven't met you yet, please introduce yourself to me. I would like to meet you. I'm not that intimidating, and I am not that big. You would think I'm in high school, but I am not actually. I am married to the girl in the sound booth back there, and so, hey, wife. That's awesome. I love having the microphone for those reasons right there. Ever since I've lived here, I'm pretty much known as just Tyler's husband or boyfriend, but my name is Jared. I do have a name. So you guys can call me by it if you want to. But hey, you can call me Kid Bags. That's okay. I regret ever sharing that. Ever. Griffin already introduced Valentine's Day. Obviously, that's the big subject this week. Valentine's Day. Are you guys excited for Valentine's Day? Just out of curiosity, a little bit. It's always like mixed reviews on Valentine's Day, isn't it? It either like everybody's super excited for it, or it's like an emotional low for everybody, and they're like, do not remind me. Like you guys have it like count down till like Sunday night at midnight. Like Valentine's Day is over for you. Like it's exciting for you that it's done. How many people have Valentine's Day plans? Just out of curiosity. Okay, just some people. How many people wish they had Valentine's Day plans? There's some bold people in the room that are raising their hand. Valentine's Day plans, hey, they can be pretty fun, but guys, I mean, it's pretty smart to kind of stay out of that scene. It's expensive, isn't it? It's an expensive holiday. Like the chocolate, flowers are insanely expensive. How many of you guys have bought flowers for somebody before? You've bought flowers for somebody? Aren't they expensive? They are crazy expensive. So Valentine's Day, I mean, if you're involved in it and you have somebody you're spending it with, that's awesome. But if you don't, well then guess what? Your bank account gets to grow a little bit more. So it's a win-win for you, right? It's a win-win. Valentine's Day, that kind of brings up the subject that we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to continue talking about relationships with this theme called Dateable. And kind of the subject that we're talking about specifically with relationships is the subject of dating, and it applies to you in high school, and it applies to a lot of people who are in their 20s and in their 30s, and sometimes even in their 40s. Dating is a subject that you could actually carry well into your life. And to be honest, even when you get into marriage, dating is still actually something that you should think about, because you still are dating the person that you marry. It's not at some point in your life you just stop thinking about dating. You're still trying to get to know somebody. At no point do you really just know somebody fully. I think for the rest of our life, we're going to be getting to know the people that we say we love. And so that's really a lifelong pursuit, isn't it? So dating's applicable to us. Tonight, we're going to kind of piggyback on what Griffin talked about last week. If you guys were here, then you heard Griffin ask the big question, why date? Now, whether you realize it or not, why we date is actually connected to how we date. Why we date actually determines how we date. And so dating can be it can be an awkward, but also like kind of a fun subject to talk about sometimes in high school. But whether we want to admit it or not, it relates to all of us, and all of us think about it at some point. So when we talk about dating tonight, I want to introduce the idea that dating, whenever anybody jumps into dating, thinks about dating somebody, they have a list. Okay? How many people are list people? Like you use your phone to actually make like a to-do list with homework. How many people actually do that? I've become that way. It's a good tool to be organized, right? But I would say that everybody in here has a list for dating. You might say I don't make a list like that, but I think you actually do. I think everybody in the room has a list, and when I talk about a list, I mean like expectations and like requirements for the person that you date. Everybody in here has a list of things that they're looking for and the person that they spend time with, and the person that they spend a relationship with, I guess, a dating relationship with. And those things can be very different. For some people, it could be that you're looking for somebody who has like a good sense of humor, or you're looking for somebody who's smart and intelligent, can carry a conversation with you. For a lot of us, we're looking for somebody with the same interests. Maybe you're looking for an athletic person, or an artistic person, or a musical person. If we're being honest, almost all of us, hopefully all of us, are looking for somebody who's attractive, that we're attracted to. You see, we all have a list of requirements. So what I want to do is I want to just take a moment, and I want you to think to yourself, what are one of the things that would be at the top of your list? If you've never thought about it before, kind of think about it now. What are one of the things that are at the top of your list that you think about when you look for somebody that you could potentially date? If you are dating somebody, Think about what are the things about them that you're attracted to? What are the things that make you want to date that person? So think about it for a second, and then I want you to actually get the boldness to tell somebody around you one thing that you would look for in somebody that you date, okay? So go. Tell somebody. Okay? Some of you guys aren't sharing, and I know that you have some things that you're looking for. Some of you guys are like sharing quite a list. You've thought about this before. Yeah, do you like a list on your phone? All right. You guys have shared quite a bit, I think. Let me ask you this. Let's get a feel for the room real quick. Let's kind of see where everybody's at. How many people mentioned that they were looking for somebody who was intelligent or smart? How many people mentioned that? Okay, that's quite a few hands. How many people mentioned that they're looking for somebody who is funny, has a sense of humor? Okay, that's it. Wow, that's a lot of hands. I actually didn't expect that many hands for that one. How many people are looking for somebody who has the same interest as you? How many people mentioned that? Has like common interests? Okay, that's a pretty popular one, right? We want somebody who we can share our interest with. How many people said they were looking for somebody athletic? Was that, okay? Some people. What about artistic? Artistic, did that come up? Okay. What about musical? Okay, some music people, okay? How about this one? This one's gonna hurt a little bit. Did anybody say tall? Ow. Sorry. A lot of girls are raising their hands. No guys would raise their hands on that, probably. How many people said that they're looking for somebody who's attractive? Did anybody, got some honest people in the room? Everybody wants to date somebody who's attractive. We all want that. Well, guys, what I'm trying to point out is that whether we've ever thought about it or not, like consciously, we all do have a list. For most of us, it's a mental list. For some of us, it's a short list. But we all have expectations that we're looking for when we get into a dating relationship. We know what we're looking for. Now, for most of us in the room, we aren't walking around the halls at school looking for the one, are we? I mean, we're not, you might be, okay? You really might be. But most of us aren't like scanning the hallway every day looking for our future husband and wife, okay? If you are, slow down, okay? Just... You guys probably know somebody who is. How many people think they have a friend who's like looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right, like at school every day? That's a lot of people, actually. Most of us aren't doing that. Most of us are pretty down to earth. The reality is that while we do want to find somebody that we have common interest with, somebody that we can actually like hit it off with, somebody who has a lot of the things in common with the things that are on our list, we realize that we really just want somebody that we can just spend time with, somebody that we can get along with, somebody that we can enjoy. We're looking for that type of person, somebody who fits the things on our list, somebody who makes us feel special, somebody who makes us feel important. But that's hard, isn't it? Like, not only is that hard, but honestly, in high school, sometimes that can be almost impossible. Right? Some of you guys are like shaking your head like, yeah, I know, you preaching to the choir. Like some of you guys are looking and you're not finding and you hear what I say. It's striking you deep. Because that's the reality of high school is that, you know, either you like her and she doesn't like you back, or she likes you and you're not getting the memo. Like you need somebody to like spell it out for you, or you guys like each other, but you used to date her best friend and now because of the rules of every dating law and every high school everywhere, like it is impossible for you guys to now date. The list goes on and on of different scenarios that just make dating so difficult, not just in high school, but really all throughout your life. Dating is not easy. Now, some of you guys have been in a relationship where you do feel like you found somebody who fits all the things on your list, and you feel like you found somebody who you really get along with. But over time, you began to realize that a lot of those things were really just temporary and the newness wore off. And you came to realize that they really weren't that great of a match for you and that they almost seemed like a different person as time went on. You guys see how dating can become such a difficult thing for so many people. We see that in order to find a person who we consider to be dateable, somebody who fits the things on our list, we are going to have to look pretty hard. And the reality is that a lot of people give up. And a lot of people just say, you know what, either it's not for me, or they give up on the idea of love altogether. And they say, you know, it's just a fairy tale. People used to talk about it, and it's just something that's in movies, but it doesn't really exist. To be honest, dating, I think, and finding the right person to date, not just in high school, but even afterwards, can sometimes be the hardest test you will ever take, won't it? I mean, if you guys are like me when you're in high school, if you really do like somebody, it adds so much stress, doesn't it? I mean, you could study for a test, you could have a difficult class, but there is nothing in the world that goes on that is more tied to your heart than you actually like caring for somebody and liking them and hoping that it works out, only to find out that, you know, maybe it doesn't. And so when we talk about Valentine's Day, and some people are raising their hand because they're excited, and I look around the room, and some people just genuinely, you can tell, are not excited about this day. And it's because our hearts are so deeply attached to relationships and to this idea of dating. It's not easy by any means. Now, what I want to do is relate dating in high school to the other big D in high school, and that's driving, okay? So how many of you guys have your driver's license? Raise your hand if you have your driver's license. Okay, that's a lot of people in the room. How many people wish you had your driver's license right now? Okay, that makes up about everybody. Everybody wants to drive. You guys know as well as I do that driving is fun, right? It's fun. It takes a lot of responsibility, right? But at the same time, it's not only does it take a lot of responsibility, but it involves a lot of freedom. But it is expensive, right? I mean, you have the price of the car itself. You have oil changes. You have to pay for gas, and not to mention insurance. Does anybody in here pay for their car? Does anybody? Wow. Okay. You guys know what I'm talking about then. You guys know that it is a lot of money. You have to invest quite a bit in order to drive and experience that kind of freedom. It's expensive, but it's worth it. It's worth the risk. It's worth the investment. And you know, dating is really very similar to that. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but dating, sometimes we have no idea how much it'll cost us. We don't know what all goes into the responsibility. But people think that dating is worth the risk. They think that kind of relationship is worth it. It's worth the cost. It's worth the responsibility. And that's why a lot of people do it. Now, there are moments in your life, I think, that you will never forget. Moments that I think you'll remember for the rest of your life. Maybe like a younger sibling being born. You may remember that. Maybe it could be something like maybe scoring like the winning goal in a game at some point. You may remember that, big highlight of your life. For some of you guys, it may be more embarrassing, like getting sick in class, a time when you got sick and like threw up in class in front of everybody. Like, you all have moments that you will remember forever. For me, and I think for many of you, one of the things that I don't think I'll ever forget is getting in my car the first time, getting my license and actually starting up my car, driving out of my driveway and thinking, I am free. I remember, I don't know if you guys are like this, but the first time I got my license and I drove on my own, I remember I was parked outside the house and my parents were like, man, you know, a pizza sounds good tonight. I was like, I'll get it. I'll go get it. Like immediately, like, and they're like, it's okay, all right. And they're like, it's not going to be ready for like 40 minutes. I'm like, it's okay. I'll go right now. Then I'm just driving, just enjoying, you know, but you're scared at the same time because you're afraid that like a cat is going to run out in front of you. It could be like a squirrel, but you know you're going to wreck and die because like you're expecting the worst, right? Like dating and driving are actually very, very similar because a lot of people actually do expect the worst. In 2002, I really couldn't prepare myself for what was about to happen to me. I got my driver's license, and I didn't really know what all went into buying a vehicle. I don't know if you guys went through that process or whether your parents just surprised you with a car and a bow on it on Christmas morning. I don't know what your experience was like. I had to go vehicle shopping, and I had to pay for my vehicle. So what I ended up finding out was I did have a list, a small list, and my list was that I really wanted a car under about 30,000 miles. I wanted a car that pretty much like either a fast car or like a big truck that I could drive around, something that'd be powerful and make me look like I'm taller than what I am. I wanted that, or or I wanted something with a nice stereo system to like blare my country music. Yeah, I did not expect for anybody to be excited about that, but that's what I was looking for. So as I started looking around, I kind of had, you know, a small list to look at things. And here's some of the cars I looked at. You know, the first one, I really wanted a vehicle that I knew was like kind of vintage, that could like get me around. And I knew that people would look at that and be like, man, that guy's awesome. He must be awesome because his car's awesome and it works like that, right? So, or I wanted something really big that I felt like I could just drive through anything. Like if a house was in my way, no problem, I'll just go through it. So I wanted a nice truck. Or, if a mountain's in my way and there's no other way around, it would be cool to like climb over it in a Jeep. So like, I just wanted to be prepared for everything. I'm from Indiana, by the way. There's no mountains or anything there at all. So none of these things were practical. Or, I just wanted something, something that wasn't too flashy, but just something that would get the neighbors' attention. So I wasn't really looking for anything crazy. But as you guys can see, like those things probably didn't work out for me, right? Those things, it didn't take long for me to realize that what I had didn't match what I wanted. That what I possessed, like the money that I had, wasn't going to go as far as what I wanted. What I wanted wasn't going to be a reality for me, unfortunately. So here's what I ended up getting. This is my first car. It was yeah, you like it? No, you don't. You don't like it. This was my reality. So I grew up in an area with a lot of snow, and it would snow a lot in the winter. Joy and I grew up in the same area, and it gets pretty bad in the winter sometimes, doesn't it? So turns out that I bought a vehicle that was good 6 months out of the year. My vehicle was like absolutely terrible in the snow. Like I would have to pile sandbags in the back of it in order to like weigh it down so it would get traction on ice. One time, guys, I'm not kidding you, I was driving to a class when I was taking college classes in high school, had all this freedom. I thought it was great to be out of school. But when the weather was bad and it was icy, one time I was just driving and I had a drink in my cup holder and it spilled a little bit. And so I had my wheel and I bent down, took my eyes off the road on the highway. I reached down with my other hand to get my drink. And when I look up, I am completely the opposite direction, sliding backwards with a semi coming at me. And I thought, I am going to die. I'm going to die. How many people would like this as your first car? Anybody? There's a couple people raising your hand, and you guys don't know what you're asking for. Okay, the tailgate was broke. The center console was broke. When I went the speed limit, it shook, like really violently. Like it was like a massage every time, okay? What I'm saying is, my reality didn't really match what I wanted because what I wanted didn't match what I had. They were two completely different things. And even though I really wanted something big and great, I wasn't in a place in my life where I could have anything like that. And all of you guys understand that. That stuff happens in life when you don't have what it takes to get what you want. We all have that situation in our life. And it's easy to say, and it makes sense, but man, it is really hard when you're in the middle of a situation like that and you really, really want something that you know you can't really have. The truth was that if I wanted the things that were on my list, guys, it was going to take action on my part. Something was going to have to change. So I want you guys to see the connection here, is that with dating, some of us are so worried that we're not going to find the right person. I mean, honestly, our identity is so tied into the whole dating process and the whole idea of, do they like me? Are they going to affirm me? Am I special? Am I pretty? Am I handsome? Am I strong enough? Do I have what it takes? We ask all these questions, and we expect to get that answer from somebody else, sometimes in our high school, sometimes in a different school, but we like to date to get those answers. But the reality is that sometimes, even though we're looking for all of those things, we don't always get what we want. And just like it was hard for me to miss out on the car that I wanted, in the same way, sometimes it's hard when we miss out in dating on the person that we really have our eyes on the person that we really feel special about, because we feel like they match all the things on our list, and we really want their presence in our life, because what that speaks to us is that we're special and that we're important. And guys, when we don't get those things, it tears us up inside. But I would challenge that idea, and I would say maybe there's more to dating. Maybe there's more to dating than finding someone. Maybe there's more to dating than just finding someone. Maybe it's more about becoming someone. Maybe dating is more about becoming someone than finding the right person that fits all the things on our list. I would say this. I would say that becoming someone is greater than finding someone. Becoming someone is greater than finding someone. I'm not sure if you guys have ever thought about something like that before, but if you look to the Bible, it supports what I'm saying right now. There are way more verses in the Bible that talk about developing you and I as a person than dating somebody else. It's actually really hard to find a Bible verse or a passage or even a story that talks about two people dating and what that looks like. It would be so easy if God just put out the instructions, like step by step, of what you and I need to do in order to find the right person and keep the right person. But instead, God just gives us all kinds of stories and all kinds of parables and all kinds of lists and all kinds of commandments saying, this is who you need to be. This is what you need to be like. There's a lot more in the Bible about developing yourself than finding somebody else who's already developed. I'm not sure if you guys realize the truth that we're talking about right now completely. I mean, this is a lot of truth. Becoming someone is greater than finding someone. God proves that through Scripture because he wants to develop us into the people that he's calling us to be. We will never be able to date and eventually marry the person of our dreams unless we make sure that we are all of the things on our list as well. Think about that. Okay, if you want a funny, honest, faithful person, healthy person in your life, then doesn't it make sense that they also would want a funny, honest, faithful, healthy person in their life as well? We often look for people that are things that we are not. God wants to build us up so that we can be somebody that somebody else would want to date. That's really where it starts, isn't it? We don't start with looking for somebody that is a way that we're not. We start with becoming someone that other people would want to be with. We start with that personal development. We start with allowing God to take all of our fears and all of our anxieties, to take all of those things and say, let me build something better. Let me build you into the person that everybody else will want to be around. That's his plan. That's his strategy, is for you to seek his heart first above anybody else's. So my question for you is this. Do you think you're more focused on finding someone or being someone worth finding? Which one do you think you're more focused on? Guys, for me, if I'm being honest, I think that for a lot of my life, I was much more focused on finding someone than I was concerned about being somebody that was worth finding. Okay? Where do we even start with this? Like, where do we even go? The reality is that God makes himself available to us. And God himself, in 1 John 4:8, he tells us, we're told that God is love, plain and simple. Everything that goes into love, everything that goes into a relationship, God is all of those things. Not only did he create love and did he create relationships, he created you and I, and he understands us, and he understands what goes into us. So a passage we're going to look at tonight is very, very popular. It's from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Paul is actually in this place called Corinth. In Corinth, there's a temple set up to a goddess. Her name is Aphrodite. How many of you guys have heard of Aphrodite before? She's a Greek goddess. The goddess of what? Goddess of love. You guys know that well. And so in this place of Corinth, you have all these Christians, but they have this temple set up to a goddess of love with a very different idea about love than what the Bible teaches. And so the people had all these conflicting views in their culture about love. Doesn't that sound familiar? Don't we have that in our culture as well? And so Paul writes in 1 Corinthians, he says, listen, God is love. And so I'm going to tell you God's heart about love. I'm going to show you a list, basically, about what it looks like to love someone. It's going to be like a checklist. It's God's list for you, what he's looking for when you and I love someone. And here's the passage. 1 Corinthians 13, 4-5 says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. How many people have heard this passage before? If you've gone to a wedding, you've probably heard it. You probably have seen it tattooed on somebody at some point. It's a very, very popular one. One of the most popular passages in the Bible for sure. Okay, so love is patient. We're going to go through these really quick, okay? Love is patient. Okay, this means that love never pressures somebody else. It means that it creates as much time and space as somebody else needs. You guys have seen high school relationships. You guys have seen relationships in general that are not patient, where people want an answer immediately. They want immediate satisfaction from the person they're dating. But God's telling us here that love is all about patience. How patient is God toward us? He is so patient. He gives us free will and allows us to act on our timing. And he waits for us because he loves us. He waits for our hearts to grow close to him. Love is kind. Okay, so another word for kind here might be considerate. That love takes time to think about other people's feelings as often as it can. So when we love somebody, when we're kind in our love, really what we're doing in any relationship, especially a dating relationship, is you care about your words and actions and the way that they affect the people that you care about. You choose them as wisely as possible, knowing you're not going to be perfect. But when you're sorry, you tell them you're sorry. When you do something wrong, you apologize because you love them and you care about them. And this is part of what God's command in shaping us to be the right person to date, because guess what? He loves his children, and he doesn't want anybody to settle for less. It says that love does not envy. This is common. If you don't know what envy is, another word really would be jealous or jealousy. Okay, love is not jealous. Love puts the needs of another person above our own. Jealousy tells us that you deserve the top spot, you deserve the top grade. Whatever somebody else has, you're the one who's deserving of it. At the very least, you should both have it, but there's no way they should have something that you don't. Jealousy makes somebody your enemy. It makes you it puts you on the opposite side of even the person that you would call your boyfriend or girlfriend. It divides a line down the middle, and you think, I deserve what they have. If they start to talk to another person, you become jealous sometimes because you think, nobody's talking to me. Why can't I be at the very center of their life? Why can't I be the one? And God says, that's not what love is. I'm the one who supplies your security. I'm the one who's going to care for you. You're not going to find that in somebody else. Give them the freedom. Give them patience. Trust them. That's what love looks like. Love does not boast. It is not proud. This might be the biggest one because pride is talked about all the time in the Bible, and we hear about it just in everyday life all the time. And really what pride is, guys, pride is self-righteousness. It's somebody thinking they're at the center of the universe or the center of the world. It's thinking that you're always correct, always right. You struggle to say you're sorry. You struggle to listen to somebody or hear out their point of view. You think that in every situation, you're the one who has the best answer. You're the one who has the best ideas. Pride blinds people. It keeps them from seeing Scripture and what God's saying for what it really says. They read it and they think, man, those people around me, they really need to change. When in reality, they should be saying, man, God is really speaking to me. Look at all the things I can change. Pride blinds people from seeing what God wants to do in their life. And the Bible's telling us that love is not proud, that there is no pride in love, that somebody sees all the ways that they can change, and they look to God for guidance, realizing that we are dependent on others and especially on God. Love does not dishonor others, and this is a big one, guys. Love does not dishonor others. This means that when we date, we protect not only our hearts, but the hearts of other people. Think about how many dating relationships you see in high school where people are honestly protecting the hearts of the people they're dating. Like they are looking out for their heart and soul more than anything. You want to see love, you'll see somebody who sets up boundaries with their boyfriend or girlfriend and says, I'm not going to cross those boundaries because I love you. It's not because I don't want to do something, but it's because I care about your soul. And on the day when you are face to face with Christ, I don't want you to have any regrets. I'm going to protect you with everything I have inside myself because I love you and I care about you. I'm going to set myself and my needs and my urges aside because I want to honor God and I want to honor you. That's love. That is a hard one. And we can think of very few relationships probably in high school who get that one right. The last one, really, that sums up all of the others, it says that love is not self-seeking. It's not selfish. Okay, someone who is dateable is looking out for the interest of others, especially the one that they say that they care about and oftentimes say that they love. A person who is dateable decides to put others above themselves, plain and simple. Whatever the other person needs to hear, you're willing to say it. Whatever the other person needs, you're willing to do it. You care about them because in your mind, God has shaped your heart to believe that they are more important than you are. And at the root of all of these things is your relationship with Christ. Because the reality is, guys, if I'm watching out for the person I'm dating, then who's going to watch out for me? Most of us think that I got to watch out for myself because I'm all I got. Like if I don't look out for my good, then I'm not going to get anything good. But the reality is, and what God's saying is, if you trust me, and if you just follow me, if you'll just take a few steps in my direction, and you learn to love somebody else the way that you've always loved yourself, then you can trust me. Child, you can trust me that I will watch your back, and I will supply all the things that you think that you need. You thought you were supplying yourself with all the things that could sustain you, but in reality, you were cheating yourself out of all the great things that I have for you. Love other people. Give them your attention. Give them your time. Listen, don't be proud. Put them above yourself, and I will exalt you when you humble yourself. Scripture points to that idea many times in the Bible. So this is a really cool idea. And the reality is it's really hard. It sounds like a lot because it is a lot, and we can only do it with the Spirit of God living inside of us. There's no way that we can be a dateable person, a person that honors God in our relationships, unless God is at the center. Now, the cool thing about this message, guys, is that it applies not only to all of us, but there's a lot of adults in the room who can speak out of personal experience about what God has done in their lives and in their relationships. Some of you guys know, but 5 years ago, I went through a really difficult time in my life. Like, I did not know what was going to happen. My entire future flipped on its head in my mind. To some people on the outside, it probably didn't seem like a big deal, but to me, it was everything. It changed everything. About the way that I saw my future, and I was scared. And guys, I was a youth minister. And so I worked in this church, and I thought, am I going to believe all the things that I'm teaching and preaching, or am I going to run away from God because I'm hurting? And the truth is that God allowed this to happen. God could have stopped it, and he didn't. So why am I where I am? Fortunately, I chose to rely on God, and it hurt. For about 3 months, I hurt so bad. I lost weight until finally I decided, God, I'm giving this all to you because I'm not going to make it otherwise. I need you in my life more than anyone else. And I went camping by myself, and I was in my tent, and I was just crying. And I said, God, just take this from me because I need you. And guys, he took it off of me. It felt like this backpack that was lifted off of myself. And so for the next 3 or 4 months, it's not that it didn't hurt anymore, and it's not that it got a whole lot easier, but the reality is that God gave me a peace. He gave me something that I'd never had before. It was like he was telling me, I know it hurts, but trust me. I got a plan. I got a plan. You can't see the way out, but I can. You're like in a maze, but I have this view where I can see the whole thing from the top, and I'm telling you that if you follow me and if you listen, I'll tell you when to turn right, and I'll tell you when to turn left, and we'll get out of this thing together because I love you, and I've allowed you to be in this for a purpose that you can't see right now. So for about 3 or 4 months, it did hurt a little bit. It got better with time. But God was preparing my heart, and God was speaking to me. And guys, I had never been closer to God than I was during that 3 months. It was by far the greatest 3 to 4 months of my life up to that point because I was so content. I didn't feel like I needed anybody. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I felt like I was so close to God that I could just hear him speak to me on a daily basis. I was so excited to wake up and just see, God, what do you have in store for me today? What do you want to speak to me today? And it was in the moment when I was most content. It was in the moment where I found my identity the most in Christ that she showed up. It was in the moment where my heart was at the very most peace, when I loved God the most I had ever loved him before, that I met my wife. It was the most amazing event. When we were at this camp, I didn't expect anything from the camp at all, and all of a sudden there she was. And we sat there and we talked throughout the week, and on the last night, God spoke to my heart and he said, Jared, you met your wife. That was it. And guys, I had to stop my car on the way home because I cried so hard. Do you understand? Listen, okay, this is true. Do you understand how much your God loves you? Your God loves you so much that he would allow you to hurt sometimes in a season to reserve your heart for the things that he has for you. I could not believe that God allowed my heart to hurt during that time of my life when it was difficult, so that I could experience the joy that I experienced even in that one moment with the person that I know he reserved for me. And what it took, guys, was something very special. It took 3 months of pain, and it took 4 months of contentment and seeking God with all of my heart. It took me to be in a place to develop the character and the godliness that she deserved. What I had finally matched what I wanted. You see what I'm saying? It's really cool. In the midst of all the difficulty, and this is where I'm going to close tonight, in the midst of all the heartache and all the difficulty, I had this guy just randomly call me. His name was Lucas, and he was older than me, and I'd met him a couple times. I really respected him. But he called me, and he said, Jared, do you ever go camping? And I said, I actually just got back from camping. Funny you say that. He said, did you use a compass? I said, no, I did not. That's weird. And he said, well, he goes, let me talk about a compass just a little bit with you. So you guys know what a compass is. You have one on your phone probably. I don't know if you ever use it, but it's kind of cool. But what it does is it gives you directions, okay? So what I want you to do, and on the count of 3, I want you guys all to point north for me, just real quick. 1, 2, 3, point. Actually, most people are doing pretty good. Some people are unsure. Okay, according to my compass, north is that way, right there. So everybody, you got it. I'm telling you, according to my compass, north is right there. Here's the cool thing about it. Lucas called me. Listen, Lucas called me as we close. Lucas called me and he said, Jared, when you look at a compass, you have to trust it, right? Because oftentimes when you use a compass, you're in the woods, you can't see the stars, you might be able to be guided by them, but you trust your compass with everything because you know that it's going to give you perspective about where you're at. So when you hold your compass, if you're in a difficult spot, you look at it and you don't take your eyes off of it because with every step you take, you know you're going in the right direction when you're led by it. But if you take your eyes off of it, even for a moment, if you take your eyes off of it and you think you know the way or you assume that you're walking in the right direction, you may look down and find out that you've gone off the path, that you've gone out of your way, that you've settled a little bit. And he said, Jared, that's what it's like with God. He said, with your dating relationships, you've worried so much. You've thought so much. What's going to happen to me? I have to make this work. I have to make it right. You've worried about finding the right person. And even though all the things you're looking for is a godly person,